Good evening and welcome to the Folens Homework Space webinar for teachers. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Lizzie Gibbon. I'm the Field Sales Manager in Folens, and on my panel with me I have Conor Walker, who is our Head of Post-Primary Publishing. He's going to give you a good overview of Homework Space and how it will genuinely help to support you as teachers, your school and your students. And then I have Ciara MacNamara here, and she is our Head of Digital Learning Platforms. And she is going to delve right into the live Homework Space platform with you and to demonstrate the experience that you as a teacher will have and also students will get by using Homework Space. And then I'll explain the pricing of Homework Space and who to chat to if you are interested. We'll finish off then with some questions and answers. So if you do have any questions during the webinar, just type them into the chat box and we'll answer as many of those questions as we can. And any we don't get to, we'll make sure that we contact you afterwards with those answers. So overall, we'll be here around 40 minutes or so. Hope you enjoy it. I'm going to pass over now to Conor. Thanks very much, Conor.
That's great. Thanks, Lizzie. And you're welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We know how busy everyone is, so we really appreciate your time. I'll start here by just explaining what Homework Space is. So it's a new digital product that we've brought out from Folens. It's a curriculum-aligned product, importantly, and it comprises a range of ready-made homework assignments. And the way that it works is that the teacher sets the homework to their class or to their students, and those students then go into the system, they answer the questions, they submit their homework, and then the system automatically marks each of those students' answers. So then over a period of time, the teacher can then review results and track student progress. Homework Space is something that can be used alongside any textbook. So you don't have to be using the Folens textbook. You can be using another book or no book at all. It's totally independent and it's designed to work that way. So next, I'll just outline what we believe are some of the areas where it really help teachers. So to begin with, Homework Space supports a blended learning, a consistent approach to digital homework setting and marking across multiple subjects. So lots of schools, I suppose, in the last year or so have become expert almost at including digital as part of delivering their teaching and learning to their students. And Homework Space, particularly if you have a plan around homework and maybe how that might be delivered in a digital way, that would support that in a consistent manner for you and your school. It's also an easy solution for tracking progress. So the system's designed so that as students complete their work, the system captures that, and you as a teacher over time can take a look at how they performed in a given test. So you can see where they've done really well, or you can see maybe areas that need revision. And overall then, it should save you time because of the system itself or the homeworks having ready-made content, the fact that that Homework Space sort of is, it automatically marks the homeworks that the students try, and then at the end of it, then the progress tracking feature should help to save some time. It's also engaging, and it should help to motivate students because there's a wide range of questions that appear in each quiz. So you could have a simple multiple choice question, or beyond that, you could have a rating question or fill in the blanks. So that range of activities, that sort of variety, I should think, would help to motivate students. And then the questions themselves obviously allow the students to practice what they've learned in class, but then the feedback that they get within their questions allows them to reinforce their learning, to make sure they're on the right track of where they might have gone wrong. Next, I'll step you through the subjects that are available for Homework Space. So it's at the moment focused on junior cycle, and the subjects that we have available right now are junior cycle maths covering higher level and ordinary level. The same again for Irish, higher level and ordinary level. And we also have got a track for first year specifically for Irish. Then we've got the French Homework Space, and we've also got one for science as well. Then coming very soon this month, we've got geography and history. And then later on in March, we've got Spanish and German to complete the MFL offering that we've got for Homework Space. Next, I'd like to just step you through the structure of the product and how it works. So really, if you look at it as a textbook, it's very similar to that. So you've got Homework Space subject made up of a range of chapters or in a table of contents, and we call them units. Then within each unit, there's a series of homework assignments on key topics or skills. Then each unit finishes with a final test, like the revision section at the end of a chapter in a textbook. And to step you through just a couple of examples here, this is one from maths. So it's unit 7 or chapter 7 on decimals and percentages. And so units or homeworks 7.1 through to 7.4, they're your homework activities or assignments. And then 7.5 represents the final test, which covers all the key topics and areas that would have been covered between 7.1 and 7.4. Then this is an example from Junior Cycle Irish. And similarly, you've got units or assignments, I should say, 1.1 through to 1.6. And then 1.7 is the final test. And you'll notice that in Irish and for all our other languages, the homework activities that we have focus on different language skills. So 1.1 is a Cluj-Tishkent or a listening comprehension. 1.2 is grammar. 1.3 is a vocabulary homework. 1.4 is a reading comprehension. 1.5 is a poem. It's based on a poem on the recommended reading list from the NCCA. Now, in that particular activity, the student's not expected to have studied that text. They'll see it for the first time and they'll be asked a range of questions on that. And then 1.6 is a vocabulary activity. And again, 1.7 is the final test at the end. And here now is an example from science. So this is unit 7 on respiration. And we've got homework 7.1 through to 7.4, concluding in 7.5 then, which is the final test on the preceding homework activities. And just to give a broader sense of how an entire product would be structured, this is like your table of contents for Junior Cycle Science. So you'll see that we start off with unit 1, which is on the nature of science, and we progress through the product, through biology here, up as far as chapter or unit 9. Then we move on through when you hit into chapter or unit 16, you're going into the chemistry related units. Then progressing on when you reach chapter or unit 29, that's moving into physics or the physical world. And then units 36, 37, and 38 are examples of some units that we've got for Earth and Space. And again, you'll see as I was clicking through that, we'll just pause it there for a second. You can see that the structure of every unit is quite similar in the sense that you've got maybe 3 or 4 homeworks, and then at the end, you've got a final test. So Lizzie, I'll hand it back to you to then get Ciara to do the demo.
Thanks so much, Conor. That's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'm delighted to hand over to Ciara now. She has a really in-depth knowledge of the actual workings of Homework Space. So she's really very much the best person to show you through the actual platform itself. So over to you, Ciara. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you, Lizzie. Let me just share my screen. I think I need presenter to be made the presenter. Excellent. Okay, and okay. So you should be able to see the Folens Hive platform now. Okay, so as Lizzie said earlier, I am head of digital learning platforms at Folens. So I have been working with the team to design and build the functionality for this product on our new website, Folens Hive. And so now what I want to do is just show you some of the key tasks that you would need to complete as teachers, and then also what your students would see when they go into the platform and actually attempt one of the homework assignments. So I'm going to log in as a teacher. And you can see here that I'm a science teacher. We're going to use this as an example. So I'm just going to click on the product in my library to open it. Okay, and so here on this left-hand column, you can see the table of contents essentially. So these are all the different units, which Conor just took us through there for science, right up to the physics at the end. And within each unit, then you can see here again, these are the 4 assignments for homework. And then at the very end of each unit, you've got your final test. You can see here that if I select an activity here, it changes what is displayed on the right. And this is essentially a preview of the questions that are in the assignment that you're about to set. So you can preview these questions before you actually assign them to the student. So to actually assign the activity, you will click on this assign button up here in the top right. And the first thing to do here then is select what content you actually want to assign. So in this example, I'm going to assign 3.1 cells. So I just check that box there. If I wanted to assign more than one activity for homework or more than one assignment, I could do that by selecting the checkbox. Second step then is to select who you're going to send the assignment to. So in this instance, I've got 2 classes here. I'm going to select my second year class. And I could assign it to the first at the same time if I wanted, but I've already done that earlier on in the week. So the other thing to be aware of here is that you can assign this to individual students. So you can see here that this has opened a list of the students in my classes. And the important thing to remember here is that when you assign homework to the students, they only see what you've assigned to them. So they can't see what you have or haven't assigned to anybody else in the class. So it's a good opportunity for differentiation as well. Final step then in the process is to select when you want to make this assignment available to your students. So you could plan ahead if you wanted and select a future date if you wanted to set homework, say, for next week. I'm just going to select today's date, which will mean that it will be available immediately. And then I'm also going to set a due date. I'm going to give them until, say, next Monday to complete the work. What that means is you're setting a deadline here. So once that date is passed, the students will no longer be able to access that assignment. So if you wanted to allow them access after this date, that's fine. You can just make sure that it's always available to them by checking this box. Or if you wanted to just give them maybe 1 or 2 days extra, you could set an extension period for that as well. So then I finally just click save, and that is how I assign the content to my students. Okay, so I'm actually going to log out as a teacher now and log in as a student, so you can see what your students would see and what they would experience. So let me go for. Okay, so when students get into the platform, the first thing that they'll see is that you've actually they have the product here now available in their library. So if they actually are using any other Folens ebooks, they'll also appear alongside here in the library. They can access the overview of the course structure from here. The second thing is this assignments menu. So if they click on the assignments menu, they can see that they have one piece of homework that is due, sitting under the due tab. And you'll also notice this little red alert up in the corner. So that will actually remain in place to indicate to the student that they do have homework that's due. And so that remains in place until they complete their homework. Then I'm just going to take you into the assignment. And you can see here, it just gives the student some preliminary information about it, like so their due date and how many questions are in the actual assignment. So again, students can clearly see once they get in that they have 8 questions that need to be answered. They're shown what question that they're on as they go throughout the assignment. They can also see how many attempts they have at a question. So in this case, they've only got 1 attempt to get the answer. And they can see how many marks are available for each question. So what's important about the homework assignments is that we have developed this model where we're giving immediate feedback to the student on attempting a question. So if I select an answer here from this multiple choice, so which scientist first used the word cells when observing a sample of cork underneath the microscope? Robert Hooke is the correct answer, I believe. So if I select that, this check answer button becomes available. And as soon as I select that, I get feedback. So I know that I got that answer correct as a student. And I'm also getting reinforcement of the correct answer here. And I can see that I've been awarded 2 marks. So for the homework assignments, we give this immediate feedback. For the tests, we just hold off on that. So they answer all the questions in sequence and they get their score at the end, more like in a real life test scenario. So I'm just going to show you as well what would happen if I got a question wrong. So the feedback that they would get. So I selected incorrect answer. So immediately, again, you can see that they're told it's an incorrect answer and they're told hard luck, that's incorrect. And they're given the correct answer. So they're giving, again, we're giving them that reinforcement. And again, you can see that they've lost marks. They haven't been awarded marks for this question. So I'm just going to see if we have some other examples. So we use a variety of different activity templates throughout the assignments. So this is another example. You can see here that there are now 2 drop downs within this statement that students have to answer, and there's 2 marks available for the question. So if I just go through this, tissues are composed of similar cells, I believe is the correct answer, working together to carry out, I think it's similar function, but I'm going to get the second part wrong. I select task. And so as I pointed out, there are 2 marks for this question. So if I select the check answer now, the user gets immediate feedback again. They can see that they got part of the question correct, the first part correct, the second part incorrect. And again, they're told, look, this is the full correct answer. What you might also notice is that we have awarded a single mark for this. So what we're trying to do is, if a student does know, we're trying to reward them for any of the knowledge that they do have. So they're getting partial marks for partially answering the question correctly. And if we scroll through more. Okay, so this is another example of a different activity type. So this here is an association question. So students just have to correctly associate the image with the definition. So this is a muscle cell, I think. If I just drag these options over. And again, I'm getting the immediate feedback. Everything highlights in green to indicate that I've got it all right. I've got my full marks awarded, and the feedback that I've got the correct answer. And one last example. So actually, I'm going to get one of these wrong. So here the students are basically trying to match these items into a category. So they're categorizing this. So I think the brain and skin are both organs, but I'm going to get one wrong. And I'm going to put the nervous system down here. So if I, again, check this answer, the student gets immediate feedback. Once again, I can really clearly see what parts of the question I got correct, and then which one I got wrong. And again, there were 4 marks available for this question, and as I've answered 3 out of the 4 parts correctly, we're giving the student the 3 marks for answering what they do know. So once the students then have completed all of the questions in an activity or in an assignment, they can review their answers, so they can go back over and have a look at anything. And you can see I skipped a few here, so they may want to go back and answer those. But once they're ready, they submit the assignment, and they get presented with their overall score for that assignment. So now when I go back into my assignment section, so now here what I see is that the assignment is actually moved into the marked section. So I no longer have anything due. I'm told I've no due assignments. And we can also see that the little counter that was here to indicate that the student had homework due has been removed. The other thing that is of note for the eager students is that they can go back in to any of the assignments that they've already taken. They'll all appear here on this marked screen. And if they go back in, they'll actually be able to see exactly what they did on that test. So they can see what score they received, how many questions they answered correctly or partially correctly, what they got wrong, and how many they might have skipped. And when they go through it, they get the detail on what answer they selected, if it was right or wrong. If they did select an incorrect answer in this second question, it does show them what the correct answer is. And again, it gives them that feedback about what the correct answer is. So it's a handy way of revising as well. And they'll always have access to this information after they've completed the assignment. Okay, so now I'm gonna log out of the student account and go back in as a teacher. Actually, one thing which I will show you, one of the question types that we can't, I can't show in the science, but if I open in French, so for our MFLs and our Irish subjects, we do include a lot of audio throughout this. So it's great for audio practice. And if I can show you an example. Okay, perfect. So basically, you can use all of the question types that we've previously had. This is an assignment question again, but that we've put audio with it, so students have to listen to the audio and then answer the question.
Allô, Lauriane, qu'est-ce que tu fais aujourd'hui?
Okay, I won't play the full minute of that, but just so that you're aware that there is audio incorporated for all of the languages as well. I'm going to exit that. So basically, the last kind of, or the main other task that you'll want to do is, as a teacher, is once your students have actually completed the homework, you want to see how they've actually performed in it. So if you come to your assignment section here, you'll be able to see all of the assignments that you've previously set. You can see I've got 2 here, and if I want to filter that based on what class, so if you're teaching this with more than one class, you can just filter out to that class. So I was doing second years, and I can see that this is the assignment that I had just set. So I'm told when I assigned it and what the due date was. This will actually go red once the due date is passed, so you can kind of keep an eye on that, and you'll be able to jump in and see when you actually need to check the homework. You can see in this instance that only 4 out of the 15 students in the class have submitted it yet, and that's reasonable given that they haven't passed the due date yet. So if I just jump in here, again, I'm given some high-level information, same as the students were given, just what the due date is, how many questions there are, and down here then I've got a list of who submitted the homework. So I can see I had logged in as Mary Burke was the student where I just completed that activity, and you can see that, okay, so I got the 10 out of 20 marks that were available for the assignment. If I then want to review that work, I can click on this button and I can see exactly how Mary answered each of those questions. She got the first question correct and she got her 2 marks. Second question, I can see that she got that wrong, and which was the correct answer for it. So that's just a kind of an in-depth, if you needed to go into an individual student, you've got access to that. For any tardy students, there's also an option to just send them a reminder, basically, that they still need to do their homework. And the final report I want to show you is this compare student responses. So this is great. So this basically gives you all of the students in your class and all of the questions that were in the assignment. And what it basically lets you see is what specific questions in the test students are struggling with. So like you can see here, out of the students who submitted so far, that nearly all of them have got the first question correct, so that's not an issue. But the second question, they're all struggling with. And even here, like, where this P indicates that they only got the question partially correct. So it would suggest that there's something maybe about the concept that they're not understanding. So this can be handy for, in class, you could just go in and focus on those specific questions. You don't have to go through all of the ones that they got right. And so that is a little tour, I think, of everything you need to know. There's more that it can do, but that they're the main tasks that I think you'll need to do as a teacher. I send this back to Conor then.
Thank you so much. That's absolutely fantastic, Ciara. Thanks so much for bringing us through that. I think we're going to just split back onto the main slides there now, Conor.
Yeah, just do I have control?
Okay, 1 second.
Can you guys see my slide?
No, sorry, Conor.
Not yet, no.
You should have it now. Sorry.
Okay. There we go. Fantastic.
Yay. Okay, so
great stuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit just about how the pricing works for Home Workspace now. So Home Workspace is purchased as an annual school subscription. It's charged per student user, and it's €8.50 per subject, per user, per year. So do have a chat with Brian McGarvey if you're interested. He's our specialist Home Workspace sales advisor, and he can arrange for you to view our bank of questions, which might be really, really helpful for teachers to kind of really get much more of a sense of what the questions for their specific subjects are. He'd be really happy to arrange a virtual appointment at any time that suits you or your department. So that could be by phone, or what we're finding is that by video works really, really well, because he can share his screen with you so you can have a look at things as he goes through the appointment. He'll also talk to you about the special bundle prices that we have for schools who are wishing to use Home Workspace for multiple subjects. So basically, the more subjects that people take on, or schools take on, then it represents much better value. It becomes cheaper and cheaper per subject. And while the Home Workspace subscriptions run fully in line with the full academic year, we do have a good number of schools at the moment who are ordering now for the next school year. But they're extremely keen to get started immediately, and that's absolutely no problem. So they're buying for the remainder of this school year. So Brian will have a chat with you about what that would cost. Obviously, that's a cut down price for doing that this year if you're buying into next year as well. So, for example, third years at the moment, now that the junior cycle exams have been cancelled, it might be handy for them to start something really structured now. So do, as I say, have a chat with Brian to discuss the pricing for doing all of those things. His number is 087 050 1951, and his email is brian.mcgarvey@folens.ie. So we'll leave that slide up there for a second for you to take that down if you'd like to. Lovely. And now we'll move on to our questions and answers. We've got a good few questions through, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm just having a look at them as they come through. There's lots of people asking the same types of questions, which means that there's a common theme there. So the first questions that I'm seeing quite a few on are around GDPR. And I suppose, yeah, and that's the first question that we often get asked by schools when we're talking to schools as well. So as I'm sure you understand, we really take our responsibilities really very seriously in terms of GDPR and try and minimise the data that we actually collect down to what's absolutely necessary. So within Home Workspace, the only personal data that we collect are teacher names and email addresses and student names and email addresses. So we recommend that students are given a school email address rather than using their own personal emails. And the big thing is that no different to any other platform that your school might already be using. So, for example, Google Classrooms, we do recommend that you seek parental consent. That's good practice anyway. So, yeah, I mean, basically, it's the highest levels of security and protection within the Folens Hive platform. There are already thousands of teachers using the platform nationwide. So if you do have any further queries, do refer to it. We've got a privacy policy specifically around this stuff on folens.ie. So do have a look at that if you need to. Now, more questions that we're getting in through. Yeah, so I'm going to take this one. This one's for Conor. So do you have to be using a Folens textbook to use Home Workspace?
No, you don't. I think I mentioned that earlier. The idea is that it can be used independently. So when our authors who are experienced teachers were working with us to devise the scope and sequence of the product, we put together effectively a table of contents that would be applicable to the study of the subject, no matter what book you were using. I think as well, if you look at the table of contents of our products, there's a fairly obvious structure and a logical structure to them, so you can quite easily navigate to the topic areas that you need to assign to your students. And also the questions themselves are quite, or the homeworks themselves and the tests themselves are quite short, so it shouldn't really interfere with your assignment of maybe work from either the Folens textbook or your notes or another textbook that you might be using.
Yeah, fantastic, great stuff. There's a good few questions coming in, which I think I'll direct at Ciara. Mainly around, do you have to be registered for Folens Hive, and how do you add your list of students to the Hive? How does the sort of setup area work?
Okay. Okay, so what we recommend is that you appoint an administrator for your school, and we'll give them access to, they'll have their own account with special powers where they can go in and basically create the classes. You'll probably find that most of your teachers are already registered on Folens Hive, and if not, you need to register them. And then for students, the only information that you need, as we said, we recommend for their username you use the school email address. You just need their name, their email address, select a password for them. It can be the same one for everyone, and they can change it themselves, or you can keep it the same. And then what class they're in. So that's it. That gets uploaded into the system. And so what's handy about that is, as the school admin does all that and then just lets the teachers know it's ready. So once the teacher goes in, they literally just log in, they'll see the product in their library. And as you saw me do earlier on, they literally just go in and assign the first question, and that's how they distribute it to students.
Great stuff. Fantastic, fantastic. Okay. This is probably another one for Ciara I'm seeing here. So can they submit a homework assignment without answering certain questions, or do they have to answer all the questions?
Okay, so for the homework assignments, they can skip questions, right? So you saw what I did there. I skipped ahead when I was completing the assignment.
Yeah.
And submit it. So if they wanted to, they could skip through everything, but you get to see that straight away that they have skipped every single question. And with the tests, they actually can't. They're forced to answer question 1 before they move on to question 2, and so on.
Yeah, fantastic, good stuff. Okay, I'm just looking at the questions here to pick some good ones out here. So okay, yeah, there's a few questions here on devices. Which devices does Homework Space work best in, etc., that type of thing.
Okay, so the best device to use is either a laptop or a desktop, particularly for just the size of the screen. It's better for the display. So Folens Hive is browser based. It's a website, so you have to use one of the websites to access it. You can access it on devices. So you'd be able to use an iPad or like an Android tablet on the browser to use it. We are looking at a couple of minor display things at the moment, but it does work, and it'll be fully supported from September.
Great stuff. Lovely, lovely. Okie dokie. And there's a question around Conor around subjects, possible future subjects. Is there any likelihood of business junior cycle coming on board, or?
As it stands, I suppose what we've done initially is we've focused on what sort of are the de facto mandatory subjects, obviously. So we've got the likes of maths and Irish, and then the MFL subjects, science and so on. So we haven't developed anything for business on account of it's more of an optional subject, but certainly we'll be keen after this wave of products is tested out to see what the feedback would be around business or any other subject where there'd be a demand for it. Yeah. So we don't have it now, but it's not to say that we never will.
Fantastic. Okay, there's a really, really interesting question here around, so yeah, what are the advantages of Homework Space over Google Forms?
Can I take that one?
Yeah, go for it, Ciara.
So I guess the big advantage is that this content is already created for you. So, which is the main thing, right? So these are preset questions that are. I mean, and Conor, you can speak to this in terms of, like, we have, you know, expert authors who have written these questions and, you know, are assessing the difficulty level throughout all of the assignments as well. So, for me, that would be the big advantage. And then I suppose you've got the fact that students have the records. I'm not actually fully sure or fully familiar with what the students see in terms of being able to go back in and access all of their answers. But I think the fact that they have this overview of the full course. It's not completely disparate. They can, you know, see in sequence how they've performed on a particular topic, and they get like detailed information about that.
Yeah. I suppose it's the amount of the level of work that's been done at our end of things versus Google Forms, the amount of work that a teacher would have to put in, you know, to make those work for them. The content is all there for them here, isn't it? So it's, you know,
like,
out of them for them.
Sorry, since I try to use, you know, I try to make the questions interesting. There's like, I showed you, I think 4 of the question types there. There are more question types. We have tried to use images just to, you know, for variety. We've used the audio, so there is quite a rich bank of material there. That's right.
Yeah.
And as you said, Ciara, like, these are all questions that are written by experienced teachers, so they would have a lot of experience, obviously from a classroom perspective, but also in terms of curriculum, examinations, teacher training as well. So we would pride ourselves on the quality of the questions that we've written, and a big benefit, as you were saying, Ciara, there is that the questions have already been ready and they're already written, and hopefully will save teachers time in what they need to do for homework.
Yeah. I suppose it's really worth saying that for each individual subject, because obviously we've got a number of different subject teachers on here this evening, so it's really worth saying that if you want to look quickly at some information on the individual subjects, we've got some fantastic information up on our website on folens.ie around the specific subjects. So for your subject, go in and have a look on folens.ie, and you'll find some really, really good stuff, including, you know, specifically what units there are available for the different individual subjects and those sorts of things. And there's some great videos which show the questions or examples of questions from different subjects. And as I said before as well, if you speak to Brian, he can organise for you to be able to actually physically go in and have a really good look yourself at the questions that are available for your subject specifically. Because I think, you know, it's important that you get a sense of what's there and what it feels like and looks like. So we've made that available for you to do as well. So absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to close off the questions now. So if there's any that we didn't quite get to, what we'll do is we'll make sure that we do get back to you with those. I suppose what remains to do is to say thank you so much for attending this evening. Thanks to Ciara and Conor for their fantastic presentations. But mostly, as I say, thanks so much to all of you for joining us. We've got a fantastic number of teachers with us this evening. So thank you so much for giving up a little bit of time in your evening. I know your evenings are very, very precious, so thanks for that. And also just to say that a recording of this webinar will be emailed to you. So, you know, if you do want to share this with any of your colleagues, then you can just forward that recording on to any of them to have a look as well. And as I say, do get in touch with us if you're interested. And thank you again so much for joining us this evening. And goodbye from us.
Take care. Thanks.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye-bye.